Right, hi, it's the constant angler. Been asked to do a casting video, so just nipped down to the coast to have a quick go. I'm using the Spartacus Plus Baitcasting. Put some new braid on it today, some Stealth Smooth ×8 carrier braid. 8 carrier helps because it beds in better than 4 carrier, which tends to have a different profile, a flatter profile, whereas the 8 carrier is generally a round profile and just sits on the spool better, so that will help with birds' nests. A good quality braid. Got that on a Proflex 2, which is the C702MH. Goes up to 28 grams. But you're not really interested in that. You're interested in how I'm going to set the reel up to cast. So, without further ado, first thing I do is turn all the brakes to 0. So in this case I have magnetic brakes on the outside of this one and a centrifugal brake system on the inside, so turn them both to 0. Relocate your side plate, and then you're looking to play with your end tension here. Now how I do it is I want a nice slow drop. If you're a beginner, this is very important that you have a slow drop to start off with. Don't think it's got to shoot off the rod tip. So if we just see what we've got no side to side play in the spool, so make sure you set your end tension for that first before you do this. So if I just let it drop, that's a steady drop. If I was a beginner, I'd just knock it a bit more. Just slow it up. Don't try and be too brave at first. Right, it's not moving at all there now, so just a slight turn will get it to drop off the rod tip. Recheck that. I could slow that a little, so it's just fiddling with it at first to drop off the rod tip, go in the water, and hopefully have no bird's nest when it hits the deck. That's the plan. I'd even say that's running too fast, so I'll just knock it back a little. I'm not getting bird's nests, but if I was a beginner, I'd go even slower. So just play around with it, your reel, until you get in what you want. It's still quite a fast drop, even though it's not bird's nesting. So in towards me, this end plate here in this spool tension knob actually pushes on the spindle with the reel, and that's how it slows it up by friction. Right, there's nothing there now, so we're near enough there. Let's just engage, disengage. There, that's a nice steady drop, and it's not bird's nesting when it hits the surface of the water or the floor in front of you. Now what I do is whack the magnetic brakes up to full. I then will put the centrifugal brakes up to full. Put your end plate back on, see what it does. Still dropping quite fast. If you think that's too fast still, just tension some more until you're happy. Yeah, that's a nice slow drop. Possibly it's too slow, but we'll go with that because we're erring on the side of caution. A couple of other things to mention are, if you're going to have a leader with braid, then you need the knot to be outside of the top rod ring, and a shorter leader if you're using any other knot than, I'd say, an FG knot. I have an FG knot here. It's a very neat small knot. If I can wind it down and I can show you, got to spot the thing and the rod rings. You can see how, hopefully that will focus, how small and neat that knot is. Now you're fine with that knot within the rod rings, it won't catch. But any other knot, be it an Albright, a uni to uni, whatever it is you're going to use, I would use with a shorter leader and have it outside the rod rings. So casting, the final brake that you have, so you have on this particular reel, you have 4 brakes. You have an end tension knob, you have magnetic brakes, and you have centrifugal brakes inside. You also have your thumb. Now the thumb is very important. When you cast, you push the thumb bar down and hold on to the spool, and you'll cast nice and smoothly straight out ahead of you with a side cast, which you'll see me do. That's very important as well. You can get a nice smooth cast with a side cast. You need to feather this if you feel the line that you're using is starting to fluff up, and then you just feather it lightly and you can stop bird's nests like that. You also want to stop it before it hits the water, and that will help you with bird's nests as well. So we have 4 brakes, end tension, magnetic, centrifugal, and your thumb. The centrifugal brakes, as they suggest, if you know anything about centrifugal force, it flings things out as they spin. So as that spool surges, particularly at the beginning, it flings the little plastic brake pads, whatever they are, out against the brass ring that you can see on the side plate here, causing friction, thereby slowing the reel up. Bit of trouble getting the damn thing back on. There we go. Your magnetic brakes operate throughout the cast, so yeah, they're there all the time. They're there more at the beginning and more at the end, but there is a magnetic force there at all points, really. So it's good to have both. If you don't have both, it's probably that your reel doesn't need both. I find it good to have both when I'm fishing smaller lures, not tiny lures, but as you can see on here, I've got a Texas rig. It's a 10-gram weight with a hook and a lure on there, and I would say that's somewhere around 14-15 grams of the lot. So that's what I use this reel for. So first cast, everything's set up. So we're looking, to this camera here, we're looking to make a side cast. So if you just watch what I do, and we'll see, you've got a drop of about 2 to 3 foot, whatever feels comfortable. Don't go too long, don't go too short. It's just a little flick out and away it goes. Now that didn't go particularly far, but it went straight, but I felt it slow significantly before it hit the water, and I didn't even need to thumb it. So we had no bird's nest, which if you're a beginner, that's good. While you practice your technique, your cast needs to be smooth. You don't want it to be snappy until you're an expert, and then you can start winging things around and trying to get your lures to go to their maximum distance. So that seemed very slow. What I'm going to do is knock, with this particular reel, it has 6 brake settings, 6 discs, little plates actually that fling out, plastic plates or whatever they're made of, and it has 6 settings. So I'm going to drop it down. Don't be a pighead and try and go straight in and knock it down to halfway, something like that. Take your time and practice while you're at it and gain confidence in your gear. And I'm just, out it goes. Now we're going a reasonable distance. We went a bit further there, not a hell of a lot further, but we went a bit further, and it felt controlled. So I'd be tempted now, wind it back in, but you can see it's a smooth cast, and I'd be tempted now to knock the magnets down one before I drop the centrifugal brakes again. With this particular reel, you can knock them halfway, a click, several clicks between. I'll try 8, I'll be brave. You don't need to do that. You can go 1 click at a time. Just take your time and get used to it. Out it goes, further again, or a similar distance. But the spool felt freer. Now bearing in mind, there's not a hell of a lot of weight there. I'm not going to cast it that far. The heavier the weight I put on, the easier it is to cast it. Which I know sounds almost backwards, but it is easier with centrifugal brakes and magnetic brakes on baitcasters to cast heavier lures. You'll notice a lot of the bigger baitcasters generally might just have centrifugal brakes. There isn't the need necessarily for the magnetic brakes. So where we are at the moment, we're on 8 for the magnets. We're on, I'll get the side plate off, seems to be a bit sticky today. We're on 5 for the internal brakes. Let's drop them down to 4. Let's keep the magnets on, because they'll give us control throughout the cast. If you see the line fluffing up at the beginning of the cast, you haven't got enough centrifugal brakes on. If it's fluffing up later in the cast, it's generally turn your magnets up. So what you do is you just fish it to the edge and then knock it back one for the conditions you have during the day. If the wind's in your face, you're going to have a lot more brakes than you want. So cast a bit lower, that'll help. But as you can see, I'm up high here at the moment. So bait casters are a steep learning curve for people. You're not going to go out and just hit the horizon straight away. So we've dropped the centrifugals again. Let's look at the magnets. I'm going to keep them at 8 for the moment and see what happens. And a nice smooth sideways cast. Didn't need to feather that at all. So I was quite happy with that. It's getting the distance I want. Not going to get a lot more distance than that on the reel, but let's push it and let's see. That was a smooth but speedy cast. Let's take the centrifugals down to 3 and see if we get a fluff up towards the beginning of the cast. which I'm starting to expect us to get. It's a nice still day, so I might get away with it. I still have the magnets at 8. Still nothing. There we go. But it still felt a little tight at the end, probably where the magnets are doing their work, and it felt a little, I could make it freer. So let's go to 7 with the magnets now. So you're just gradually knocking them down to gain the maximum distance that you need on the day and can fish comfortably. If the reel, after you've made your adjustments with the brake, still feels a little slow, that's when you can start to knock off your end tension, which will give you that extra yard or 2 if you really need it. But if you don't need it, don't do it. So a nice smooth cast, out it goes. No hint of bird's nests again. Excellent. So let's knock the magnets down to 6. Let's be brave. So let's recap what settings we're on now. I know I'm talking in between, but all these things are valid. We're on 3 for centrifugal brakes. We're on 6 for magnets. Nice smooth, out it goes. Gain another few yards there. And it still felt controlled. I still feel like in these conditions today, I could, if I wished, drop down the magnets even more. I'm happy with the centrifugal brakes as they are. I'm not getting no fluffs at the beginning. We'll have a look in a minute. We'll just take the magnets down to 5. So we've gone to halfway on both now. Get your drop light. Out it goes, nice and high. Little bit further again. You know, we're only talking feet. It still feels a little tight, that spool, and I'm down half with both the brakes. Let's see what the drop's like now on this reel, because everything's warmed up. So as the reel and the oil in the bearings warms up, it becomes freer. There we go, it's moving now. And it's a nice steady slow drop. Let's take it a little bit further out. There, we got a faster drop now. Let's see what that does. It still didn't fluff up when it hit the water. Let's see if it's still controllable. There you go, I didn't touch the spool. There's your no touch the spool cast. And I probably got another few feet. So let's take the end tension off a bit more. See if we can't fish it a bit more on the edge. There you go. That's a little bit faster again. Let's see what happens. Hopefully on 5 for the magnets and 3 for the centrifugal, so half for both. Or not quite half with 5. Let's leave it at that. And a nice steady cast, we'll still get away with it. But we'll see what happens, how it reacts. Out it goes. Further that time. Still no hint of a bird's nest. So we can get a little braver. Let's knock these magnets down to 4. See what happens. And I'll start swinging a bit faster, but still trying to make it smooth. If you see, I kind of fling it over here and then flick it out from the side. And still no bird's nests, and a little bit further. So I'd say the end tension is still a bit too much for me on a day like today, when there's not a breath of wind in this particular area that I am. So same again, less end tension, out it goes. I'm consistently hitting about 30 yards, I would say, there at a guess. And I'm happy, I'm not even bird's nesting. So let's try and push the centrifugal brakes now. So I'm going down to 2 with the centrifugal brakes now. There you go, don't believe I'm doing no casts here, no thumb casts. Let's go down to 1 for the centrifugals. So we're really pushing the reel to its limits now. I would expect a bird nest at any point. It's gone in the water. That's gone even further, isn't it, this time? I mean, I'm definitely 30 yards there, 30 yards plus, I say, and I've still got no issues. Just keep going until you get to the reel's limits. If you go all the way down, or you go down a long way, past, say, the middle of the range of both, and you still feel it's going too slow, then your intention's a little bit tight. So wind in, do the same trick where it comes off your rod tip, goes down, a nice steady thing without fluffing up on the spool with that, and try again. And just gradually work your way into getting to the edges of the reel. But never forget, the one thing you never must forget is to feather the line. Hover your thumb over the spool here, and if you feel it fluffing up, then just feather it. And stop it before it hits the water. That will save you loads of birds' nests, because very often that's when people get birds' nests. If they don't get it in the initial surge, it's usually all right in the middle of the cast. It's when it hits the surface of the water, all of a sudden the lure's going slower than the spool of the reel and things fluff up. So I hope that helped you. That's how I do it. It's not the correct way, it's just how I've learned to use bait casters.